If you've been asking, how do I make more Amazon KDP royalties? I'm going to challenge you today because there is a literal treasure chest of money waiting for you to uncover that has nothing to do with Amazon KDP royalties. But you're only going to be able to find it if you're willing to ask a different question. And that's what I'm going to walk you through today. When you approach your goal with this different question, the ceiling is going to lift from your income. You will no longer be trapped in this game of making book sales or hoping that the algorithm loves you. In fact, you will elevate to thinking like business leaders, and you'll basically never be the same person again. You will by no means rely on book royalties. They will just be the icing on the cake from here on. Now, if you're a fiction author, this video is not fully going to apply to you, but you may still get some value from it. And if you just want to print like a low content book with ChatGPT and toss it on Amazon and pray, this video is not going to be for you. This video is for those who have something that they want to share, to make a difference in the world, to make an impact, and they're willing to go as far as necessary in order to make the biggest difference in the world possible. So my background is in real estate investing. I've flipped hundreds of houses. I bought a few dozen rental properties, and I achieved financial freedom through that vehicle initially. But when I first started, this was 2011, 2012, I knew absolutely nothing. I only made like $7,000 in my first year as an investor. I had to work part-time at a grocery store to make ends meet. But one really cool thing that I did have during that time was a mentor. And my mentor taught me so much about how to succeed as an investor. And I remember one day I was talking to my mentor and I asked them, how do I make more money? And my mentor's reply to that question is something that I'll never forget. She said that how do I make more money is the wrong question to be asking. And I needed to ask a different question entirely, and that there was a much more powerful question I could be asking that would ultimately lead me to making more money. And that brings me back to where we started this video, because if you're asking the question of how do I make more Amazon KDP royalties, that's really just a dressed up version of the question, how do I make more money? Which is the same question I thought I was supposed to ask when I first got into business. Now, why is this the wrong question? Because making money is a byproduct of certain actions. People do not hand you money because you want to make more money. Obviously, you know that. So we've got to dig deeper and uncover the real reason why someone hands over money in the first place. So to answer that, I'm going to tell you about a new expense that I just took on. I just joined this work club here in Denver called Switch Yards. It's kind of like a co-working space mixed with a coffee shop and a little bit of a hotel lobby vibe. It's pretty cool. They're open 24/7. There's free, delicious coffee, and there's not really anyone working there. It's just a self-sustaining vehicle. It's decorated really well and just a great place to get work done. Now, this place charges $100 a month, and it's month to month, cancel anytime. And they'll open up a new location, and they'll open up like 250 membership slots. And every time they do, they send out an email and they say, so-and-so location is live, get your spot, it's going to sell out. And the first time I didn't sign up when the first location opened because I didn't really believe them, but they actually sold out in like 7 minutes. So they opened up some more membership slots. And this time I was waiting for the email. I click it and I join. Guess what? 5 minutes after that, they sold out again. So both times they sold all the membership slots within less than 10 minutes. Now, why did they do that? Well, here's the reason why I joined. So the problem I have is that it's hard for me to get work done in my house. I've got my wife and our 2 young daughters here, and there's a lot of noise and distraction, and I want to go hang out with them, or I want to go walk my dog or play video games. And it's very hard for me just to be locked in, getting into flow state and getting work done here. However, at that work club, I'm already noticeably more productive. I might get an entire 20 extra hours per month of productive work done because I joined this place. Now, 20 hours a month. Do you think I'm going to make more than $100 a month with that extra focused effort? To me, it's obvious, right? The ROI is far, far greater than what they charge. And so that is why I was ready to sign up right when the memberships dropped, and why they sell out so fast, because everyone else agrees that there is a huge outsized return that you would get on that $100 a month investment. Now, I use that word value. So I want to get back to the conversation I had with my real estate mentor. She told me that instead of asking, how do I make more money? A much better question to ask is, how do I add more value? That is the question that ultimately unlocks greater levels of income, because value makes money move. And if you don't believe me, I encourage you to actually do this. Get your phone, look at your credit card statement, just scroll and look at the things you've bought in the last 30 days. My guess is that everything you bought, you saw a value in, whether it was paying your rent or your mortgage or your cell phone bill, or even buying that cup of coffee. You're like, yeah, it's $7 for my oat milk latte, but if I don't buy it, I'm going to feel like shit, right? So it's an obvious worthwhile trade. Not only are you paying for things that you find value in, but there's a lot of stuff that you're not buying because you do not see the value in it. Like, you won't find me at the car dealership looking at $100,000 cars. And it's not that I have anything against those cars or the people who drive them, but to me, the price to value ratio does not make sense, other than it might make me look cooler. But with my Toyota 4Runner, I do see a high ROI in the value that I get and am going to get in the long run relative to what I paid. Well, this company that created this work club that I go to has mastered this value equation in such a way that it would behoove us to study them instead of just going out and trying to sell stuff. So if you want to make more book royalties so that you can ultimately make more money, well, the fundamental starting question to ask in relation to your business is, how do I add more value? And then from there, we can graduate up to the different levels of the things that you offer to the market, one of which would be a book. Now, Alex Hormozi's book, $100 Million Offers, basically says this throughout the entire thing. And it's like a #1 bestseller in business, one of the best books I've read. The whole thing is about learning the value equation and how to tip it in your favor so that it is easier to get customers. And I see so many people out there that are trying to be a coach or consultant or whatever, and they just don't have nearly enough value in the things that they're offering. Like, imagine if you started a restaurant that had shitty food and you just really hustled to try and market your restaurant. It doesn't make any sense, right? So now that we've covered the importance of value, let's get back to books. And I want to give you a word of warning, is that when you start to ask deeper, more powerful questions like this, you're going to arrive at a painful truth. And that truth is that books have a pretty low ceiling on the amount of value they can add. Now, you could argue all day that this isn't true, and I would agree with you. Books have been one of the most transformative things in my whole life. The problem is the market sees them as information, which is highly commoditized, and therefore is willing to pay $10 to $20 for a book. That's about the most you can get. And after you subtract the cost of shipping and Amazon's cut and all that, I mean, I think I make like $6 net per book that I sell on Amazon, which is a really hard vehicle to use to make the six-figure income that I have to earn in order to support my family. Now, one of the reasons for this is that books are a do-it-yourself mechanism. It's very hands-off, which is nice because you don't have to do anything when you sell a book, but it requires the reader to understand everything without any hand-holding and also implement everything without any hand-holding, which, as we all know, for being honest, is kind of rare that actually happens. That the amount of value a book can add to someone's life is sort of cut off at the knees. And if the amount of value you can add is chopped off at the knees, so is the amount of money you can make. And if you really tackle this question of how do I add more value, I want you to think about just one person you know who would be like the ideal reader for your book. And let's say their name is James. Here's how to think about it. How could I add more value to James? And so if you were a author on health, then you might say, well, I could fly to James's city, get an Airbnb, knock on his door at 6 a.m. with a green smoothie. I could walk him through workouts. I could hold him accountable. And now if you were going to do that for James, do you think he would expect to pay you more than a one-time fee of $10? Of course, right? Because the perceived value is thousands of times higher. There actually are offers like this where people that have money might pay $40,000 for someone to come and live with them for a period of time and help them optimize their entire nutrition, exercise, whatever it might be. And I'm not saying that the only solution is to fly to people's houses, right? This is a brainstorming exercise. The takeaway to consider is that if you can develop additional ways to add value to your book readers, how much more money can you make? Like, my books are not successful on Amazon by any means. The one with the most reviews has 35, right? Let's say that book sells, 30 copies a month or something, and that's including Audible and physical copies, right? What is that? $180 in book royalties. However, it is likely that I will get one client from that group of 30 people. And if my average lifetime value of a customer is $10,000, then I will make $10,000 that month from a book reader who I served at a much higher level, helping them implement what was in the book. In order to earn that same $10,000, I would have to sell 1,667 books that month to make the same amount of royalties, which of course that would be great if that was the way I made my money. But this is something that most people can't figure out, me included, and it's not even something I've ever tried to figure out because I just feel like it's easier to work with one client. And I enjoy that and helping someone and connecting with a human and helping them achieve their goals. And I'm all for building your brand, trying to get more leverage, trying to get publishing deals, getting out of client work to some degree over time. But if you are just like, I clicked on this video because I'm looking for ways to sell more books, to make more money, I'm offering you a whole different perspective on how to do that starts with a book, but that only acts as the spearhead of the transformation that you offer people and of the different products and services that live behind the book that add 1,000 times more value and are much more helpful and more likely to help people so that you can charge so much more money. And so what you're doing is you're still promoting your book. You're still selling your book. When you get someone who buys it, imagine like a lemon drops on your desk and most people are just throwing the lemon in the trash. What I do is I put the damn thing in the juicer and I squeeze all the juice out of the lemon. And what I mean by that is when someone buys my book, I invite them to get on a call with me and I sell them other stuff. I add a lot more value and I make a lot more money. And that little $6 that they paid me for the book, it's almost irrelevant. And I'm telling you, when you learn to build out a suite of valuable offers that live behind your book, that add a lot more value you will never think about an Amazon KDP royalty again. Write your book, sell it, use it as the spearhead for your message. But then when you get people in the door, serve them to the absolute maximum and get paid what you're really worth. Your book is only the tip of the iceberg. And if you want a masterclass on how to create these super valuable offers that live behind your book, check this out. And thank you for watching.